everybody. Welcome to Katie in the Morning and welcome to Thursday. I'm Katie Page, Director of Member Relations at the National Association of Healthcare Assistants. As our residents come into the home, a lot of times you'll see them go through stages where they're not able to do as much for themselves. They're having to use different transferring equipment um, and that sort of thing. As they're declining, their health declines, we're having to give them more and more help. I found on social media a question the other day regarding repositioning of their resident as they were declining in their health, and the family wanted it done a different way. So I thought today we might go through a few of the different transferring equipment techniques and even ways to reposition or transfer somebody on your own. When our residents come in, a lot of the times they are independent or they work up to being independent, depending if they're there for long term or skilled rehab. The first thing that we use, generally speaking, is a gait belt. A gate belt to me is like my key to life. Like, I do not go anywhere in the building without my gate belt. You don't know what's going to happen or when. You could be walking through the dining room and somebody's standing up that's not supposed to be standing up on their own. I usually wear mine. The girls laugh at me because I wrap it around both my shoulders and behind my neck. But for me, that's a lot easily, what's the word I'm looking for? Accessible than it is around my belt, because I just flip my arm out, whip it around, and bam, there's my gate belt. So you just wrap it around them, hook it up, have your hand hold there. That way you're not pulling on them and you have a really, really sturdy thing to hang on to while you're transferring that person. Always, 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 always check their care plan to um, understand how it is that you're supposed to be helping them. And the care plan is like that's like the set in stone. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Excuse me. And if you're not going by the care plan, that's a default on you. So if something were to happen when you're in the room with that person and you're not following the care plan, if you don't have your gate belt on them, that can be a write-up, even something as serious as termination. As they start to decline, they'll start to use other sources of equipment as well. And you guys will see the walker. Everybody's got a walker in a nursing home. They have it for a reason, for stability and for personal comfort. In a lot of cases, they may be very, very steady on their feet, but they just have that walker for the just in case parts. So even when you're transferring somebody, if it's a real quick transfer and you have two people in there, make sure that you're still using their walker if their care plan to use their walker. As they start to decline more, you may see different types of equipment come into their care plan, such as a stand aid. Stand aid is kind of newer to the nursing field. It can be done with one person, since it's not an electronic device or motorized device. It can be done by people under the age of 18 as well. You guys will see that as a big issue as you're training people. If the NAs are coming in from high school and they're not 18 yet, they're not allowed to use the easy stand or sit to stand, depending on where you are, what it's called, or the Hoyer lift or total lift by themselves, because it is an electronic motorized thing. But the thing with the stand aid is this is for people who can stand up and sit down by themselves with their own power and their own muscles and that sort of thing, but they're unable to walk from one location to another. They just kind of hang on to those bars, stand up. You put the little seats down, they sit down on it, you transfer them, they stand themselves back up. You put them up, they sit themselves back down. Now, when they're starting to decline more, you're going to see what's called the easy stand or the sit to stand come into play. There's a wide variety of policies throughout the United States stating how this can be used and who can use it, whether they're like a one person assist or a two person assist. Anything under the sun that you can think of falls into play with the easy stand or sit to stand. As a general rule, now I'm not saying this is in every facility across the United States, but as a general rule, if you ask your physical therapist or occupational therapist, they will tell you if the person can bear 70% of their weight and hang on with both hands, then you can use the easy stand or sit to stand with one person. As long as you have those straps clicked where they're supposed to be clicked, you'll see some of them with the strap behind their legs, you'll see some without, but always, always, always have the one around their middle section clip, because once they lift their hands up, they can slide right out of that if it's not on and it's not on properly. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to tackle the total lift or the Hoyer.
We look at NACA as the professional organization that supports the CNA, just like the American Association of Long-Term Care Nurses supports the RNs and LPNs.
As a state executive, I can tell you that the energy and the empowerment that this organization has given to our state has truly enhanced the depth of membership and the work that we do as a state association, I am very, very proud of our connection and our partnership with the National Association of Healthcare Assistants.
For more information, visit us online at nacacna.org or call 417-623-6049. From the Heart, a weekly segment with John Willard, airs every Tuesday at 2:30 Central Time on CNA TV.
Welcome back to Katie in the Morning. Today we're talking about different types of equipment when it comes to transferring residents. We kind of slid through the first four, but I wanted to focus primarily today on the total lift. This is the most dangerous piece of equipment that CNAs touch in the nursing field, period. I have seen so many accidents with this. I'm sure you guys know, you're getting that thing rolling. It goes right over your toes. If you don't have the proper footwear on, it can really do some damage. But I've also seen CNAs try to do Hoyer transfers or total lift transfers by themselves, and the lift is actually tipped over on them, hurting them quite badly, and of course the resident too. So when you're doing the Hoyer lift, make sure that there's two people in that room, one standing and operating the lift, and the other person kind of as a spotter who always has their hands on that resident while they're in the air. A couple of other tips when it comes to the Hoyer is make sure that you have the right size sling on them. There are different sizes. I don't know if everybody knows that or not, but they're according to weight. And that can tell you how much those straps are able to hold, how it's going to fit that resident. So if you have like an obese or bariatric resident in a medium sling lift, that is not in the best terms. That thing could break. They could roll out of it. I mean, you're not going to have all of them in it to begin with. So make sure that you have the right size sling. It'll state it in their care plan what size they're going to need. And when you're transferring that resident, make sure that your hips are straight. You keep that kind of square angle with the machine while you're transferring them, using your core muscles when you're pushing that, not your back, because that can do some very, very serious damage too. When you're putting that person up and down, the rules and regulations for that have kind of changed too a little bit, depending on the brand and the model type of the total lift. There are some companies out there that train you not to lock the wheelchairs. There are some companies out there that train you to lock the wheelchairs. There's some companies that train you not to lock the brakes on the lift. There's some companies that train you to lock the brakes on the lift. So make sure that you are following those rules of that company and the way that they design that machine to a T. Because if anything happens with that total lift while you're in the room and you're not following what you're supposed to be following, that's on you. And there are just so many CNAs across the nation that lose their job or lose their license over this. There's plenty of other equipment out there when it comes to healthcare and the protocol and the care plans of each resident. There are the slide boards or transfer boards. Make sure that you're following the rules and asking. If you don't know how to use those, ask your physical therapist or your occupational therapist or your charge nurse how to use those items before you go into a resident's room and use it with them. A lot of residents will tell you that they know how to do it, and unfortunately, they know how to do it their way. It isn't necessarily the right way to do it, so don't get yourself in trouble by following what the resident says rather than what the actual protocol for that item are. There is also commodes are considered like a adaptive equipment. The handrails, a lot of facilities are going to handrail free. Well, they'll just have like that little white half circle at the top, and they don't have the full rails anymore because those are considered restraints according to the federal rules and regulations, CMS. So make sure you're letting them use that. Everything that is in their room that is adaptive equipment is for their good. It's for promoting independence, and it's also for our good. It helps us to maintain our back a little longer in our industry, first of all, and it helps with any workman's comp issues that may come up, and also with the residents' care. We don't want anybody getting hurt, so make sure that you're doing that the right way. There are some cheater ways when you're going to transfer a resident, just to make it a little easier on them and on you. They may take a little more time, but this one specifically I recommended to the girl on social media. She was a home health aide, and her resident was an assistive one. Her patient, I should say, in home health, they aren't residents because they're in their own homes. But she sleeps in her recliner, and she has a motorized recliner that goes up and down. and she was an assistive one, and she was a victim of a stroke, so she had the left side paralysis. And she was saying that the family now wanted her. What she did before was kind of went underneath her arms, laid the chair all the way back, and pulled her up in the chair, and that's how she repositioned her. Please don't ever do that. There is so many things that you can damage in their shoulders and in your back when you're repositioning them that way. Once again, this is where the gait belt comes in. You can wrap the gait belt around their waist, go down and grab onto that gait belt rather than to them and pull them up. You could also use a draw sheet where you lay it across the bed, or across the chair, which is what her family wanted her to do. But she wasn't sure how to do that. But it's the same principles rather than grabbing them. And here's a cheater way: roll the corners of the draw sheet so that you can get a better grip on them and pull her up with using the draw sheet, but never grabbing on her. The third way, which would be my preference, is since she is an assistive one, put that chair all the way up into a standing position. Let her stand up and so at that angle, it'll be like this, and here's her. I'm just doing this is my art for you guys today. And here's her bottom right here. So when she sits down, it's going to go right into that crevice of the chair. Rather than pulling on her, let her stand up and reposition herself. It promotes independence. It's better on your back, and it's better on her body as well. The same thing goes with transferring. Even if they're in a hurry, you got to get to the bathroom. It takes 30 seconds to change. Well, it takes a little longer than 30 seconds, but to change a brief and clean them up, it takes 6 weeks to heal a broken hip. So make sure that you're using those walkers. Make sure you're using those gait belts, taking your time, take your time when you're transferring somebody, because that is a very, very critical time. And there's so many injuries that occur on a daily basis in skilled nursing homes, just because people are trying to rush through them and cut corners. If you have any suggestions, make sure that you're tapping into those social media groups. CNAs for Quality Care is a great one. It's got positive vibes in there. There's CNAs asking questions all the time, and there's a bazillion NACA members in there who are kind of answering in a positive way as well. We do kind of keep that negativity down to the minimum. But at NACA, we know that you have to vent sometimes, but that's kind of a safe place to do it, where you're not going to catch all that backlash that you're going to catch from other social media groups. I thank you guys for joining me today, and I will see you right back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Katie in the Morning.